Let's just start out with the first question. Please give us a brief of what Starwater is and what your purpose is as well. And where does the name come from, the history background of the company and stuff like that?
Sure, yeah. Starwater, STAR actually stands for Stormwater Treatment and Reuse. So our technology is advanced biofiltration technology, which is targeting the treatment of stormwater and urban runoff, industrial runoff. So we use filters that are made from recycled materials to filter the pollutants and contaminants out of the runoff off roads, off parking lots, off roofs and that. And then we filter that through our filters and we clean the water up so that we can reuse the water, and that's the reuse side. So our technology's been developed over a 20-year period. We have systems in 4 or 5 countries around the world, 4 continents, 20 cities. We use local materials in the local jurisdictions, and we have installations that have been in place for about the last 20 years onwards. Personally myself, I'm the CEO of Starwater. I've been a director of Starwater for quite some time, of the private company before we've gone public. We also play a role in some not-for-profits and industry organisations where I've played a lead role in those organisations and steered the direction of the industry. And I've also been involved in market research very early on in my career, and that market research actually led to how we could forecast that we were going to be in this situation where there's a policy and regulatory alignment on water quality and water issues and water reuse, where our technology is coming in to solve those problems.
No problem. I understand that Starwater is undergoing a IPO campaign right now. Can you please explain a little bit about that? And also, could you explain details about the numbers as well?
Yeah, sure. So we decided that we haven't got any time to waste. If you look at all the scientific data and everything else, we need to really have climate change in action. So we need to scale up very quickly, and if we can contribute to our part to solve some of the problems in climate change, then we need to do that now. And we decided that the best way to do that would be through an IPO, where actually we can share some of the benefits of the rewards for implementing what we need to implement for climate change. We can share those rewards with a lot wider audience, if you like, and participants.
Yep. And could I just ask about, in details about when you guys are launching the IPO and how much you guys are preparing to raise, for what purpose, and everything like that as well?
Yeah, so we're looking to raise 1 to 1.5 million. We're listing on the Sydney Stock Exchange. The reason we're listing on the Sydney Stock Exchange is because they are part of the UN Sustainable Stock Exchanges program, and also it gives us an opportunity to dual list on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange as well, too. And very much a lot of the ESG, ecological, sustainable and governance type initiatives are coming out of Europe, so we want to have a presence in that market, and so the dual listing enables us to do that. The IPO is really a way of doing that, accelerating, scaling up, so that we can have a stronger presence in the markets where we have a presence already, but we want to ramp that presence up to be a lot bigger.
No problem. And I guess I'll just get down to the environmental benefits of how Starwater views the environment, and then how you guys are kind of tackling this issue as well. So at the start, I just want to ask about the major concerns and challenges the company faces usually.
Yeah, so two areas. It either comes down to waste and recycling, or it comes down to water quality, water crises if there's not enough water, or flooding and so on as well. So we cover both ends of that spectrum. So we use recycled materials, community collected recycled materials, as components for our filter systems. We have a very strong scientific background, and therefore we can manipulate those materials to really treat a lot of very complex and troubling pollutants that are in waters. Usually they're invisible to the naked eye, but they cause a lot of problems, and those pollutants are usually nutrients, heavy metals, toxic compounds, even microplastics, car rubber tyre, for instance, off the roads. So we see those as being major problems that we can address, and by using our system and by manipulating the flow of water and all that, we can actually address things like localised flooding. So because of the extreme climate, extreme weather, and we're getting a lot heavier downpours now and so on, our drainage systems can't cope. And so by putting our sort of system in, we're able to spread that infiltration over a wider area and therefore reduce the localised flooding effect. So we can have that impact on climate change as far as addressing flooding and so on. The water quality as far as taking the pollutants out of the water before it goes in our precious waterways. And we can use recycled materials and find a very good market for those materials as well.
Those are definitely some challenges. And I just want to ask upon it as well, if we not are to be able to action upon these actions, what will happen in the long run, and what will happen in the future as well if you guys are not to put any solution or system into these?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, we'll have a larger waste crisis than we've already had over the last couple of years. We can use a range of products in our systems. We can use yard waste that people put out, garden waste. We convert that and engineer that into a high-performing filter component. We can use crushed glass that gets back down to sand grains, so we're not having to use sand anymore. We can use recycled plastics in the drainage structures that store the water in our systems and that as well. So we can address the waste side of things.
So what will happen if these problems are not actioned upon on the long run?
Yeah, so if we don't do anything about it, and from the waste side, we're going to have a larger waste crisis than what we've already got. We use quite a wide range of recycled materials in these systems, so the more systems we can implement, the more recycled materials we can use and the less waste there is. On the water quality side, because we treat water to a very high standard, we're keeping the waterways cleaner than what they are now. So if we don't do that, well, the water's going to get more polluted by nutrients, heavy metals and toxic compounds and that. And that's not good for not only humanity, but also for the aquatic life and biodiversity. So we really need to address water quality at this level. We've cleaned up all the trash and everything out of the water. Now it's time to do micropollutants, as we call them, ones that you can't see with the naked eye. The other side of it is that once we clean that water up, that water is available for reuse. So over time, if we don't make reuse water available, we're going to run out of water. Sydney, our city here, had water restrictions 2 years ago. That meant that people couldn't water their gardens, wash their cars, go about their normal daily life where they use water. So if we can have these systems where we've got recycled water and reuse water from cleaning up stormwater, well then that's going to solve that problem as well, and we're going to make water more available.
No problem. I guess that kind of covers everything for the environmental benefit. So let's start off with the technology section of how Star Water is producing these type of technology, how you guys coming up with these solution. So can you introduce some of the major technological solution and products, and how do they help?
Yeah, so we have three core types of technology, if you like, and products. So the first one is the core of the technology, which is what's called reactive filter media. And that reactive filter media is the filter that actually does all the work of removing the pollutants. And that filter is a natural filter. As I said, it's made from recycled and natural materials. So that can come in bulk, if you like, into different applications in housing developments like rain gardens, detention basins and bioswales, for instance, and they use that filter to direct water and filter water and clean the water up. The second set of offerings we have is devices. So we actually use that reactive filter media and we put it into cartridges and other types of products that go into devices that range from socks that go along to stop water going off a site as a barrier, for instance, but it also treats, to filter bales, which are a technology where water can go through it horizontally and filter it, and it comes out clean the other side. We have reactive filter units which go into industrial sites and construction sites where they might pump the water into the filter unit and then the water comes out cleaner out the other side. And we have technology called permeable weirs, for instance, which are again are built into the environment, and they allow water to go through them with a cartridge system in them. The third offering is the systems, and that's really our mothership, if you like. And the STAR system, STAR stands for Stormwater Treatment and Reuse, are these systems that go along the curbs and along the roadsides and in parking lots, car parks and so on, where they have a filter that goes along the gutter filter system. The water goes off the road, through the filter, and then into a storage chamber that goes along the road underneath the filter system. And we have offset tanks that might be built into parks and other vacant areas and that can store a lot more water as well. So they're the three types of offerings, but we also have another technology called Calculus. And Calculus is a computer design system that optimises the type of filter that can be used to meet the client's needs. So all the pollutant profiles and that of all the waters around that we deal with vary. So they're not all the same. So we can use this computer system to optimise the filter to meet the client's specific needs of water quality needs or regulatory needs, for instance. And so that computer system has all the components that are local for each city. In about 20 cities we operate around the world. It then selects the water quality input, and then it'll select all the different components that are needed to address that water quality and get it to the cleanliness that the client needs, for instance. So they're the three types of offerings that we have.
That sounds great. And I kind of want to get down to what are the competitive advantages that your technology might have in, bringing out the sustainability, maybe the cost, the efficiency, and also the intellectual property of the company's tech as well.
Yeah, so I mentioned about using recycled materials. That gives us a renewable resource, and especially in times like now where we're having supply chain disruptions everywhere around the world, we have a local source of material in the local communities we operate around the world, and it's a renewable resource. Everybody puts their recycling out every week, or the commercial sector put it out for pick up by the contractors. So we've got that resource all the time, whereas our competitors use sand and other mined and excavated type materials to try and do the same sort of thing. And sand's getting very scarce. In fact, you can't mine sand in Sydney anymore. You've got to go 100, 200 kilometres away, and that adds an extra cost to our competitors' input materials. The other side of it is because of the science that we're using, which has been 20 years in the making, we can predict how long these filters that we make can last through that calculus system, or we can design them to last a long time for the client. And because of that, we don't need to replace the filter as often as they do with sand filters. Sand filters traditionally have to be replaced every 5 years. We can go 10 to 15 years with our technology, and that means there's a saving in replacement cost of the actual cartridge and that, but also, or the filter, but also the labour cost to excavate and do that replacement. So we're saving 2 lots of installations in a lot of cases. So that's a very good cost saving to our clients, which are cities and construction companies, development sites, and so on. So they're all looking for ways to reduce costs and over the lifespan of their asset. And so we can do that by providing our type of technology. But it's underpinned by the science, and because also we use a computer modelling tool, we can do calculations very quickly. So our clients, we can get information back to them a lot faster than if competitors who have to do things manually because they haven't got a computer system doing all that modelling with their sort of technology. So we've got some very good competitive advantages there. The other thing is we've localised. So our technology is localisable around the world in city by city because that's where the recycled materials are, and we don't need to ship it from Australia to any other country or even from city to city. We make all around Australia in the capital cities, and we make in major cities around the world. So we don't need to ship it, freight it, and the delivery time to market is a lot quicker because of that as well.
That sounds great. And just the last thing as well, would you be able to explain the results of these solutions and these techs that you guys produce have achieved over the years as well? You know, the performance validation and the market recognition.
Yeah, I was going to mention about the patents and that, which lead into that too. We have patents in Australia, in the UK, Vietnam, and the 3 other countries are pending for patents. But a lot of it is also about the science, the know-how, and the trade secrets that go as well, along with the patents. So we're not only relying on patents for protecting our IP. Our IP strategy is a broad one with trade secrets, and we're continuously evolving some of the technology as well, the newer versions which are ahead of even where the patents are. So we can certainly provide the latest state of the art and keep that going as well. So some of the results that we've got are quite amazing. We've been testing and field trialling and piloting and putting installations in for 20 years. So we've got results that go back, as I said, some 20 years. We've got an installation near the Olympic site in Sydney that was done in 2000, for instance, the year 2000. And that site has taken out something like 6,500 kilograms of heavy metals, for instance, from going into Sydney Harbour. We've got independent testing that's been done in the US, in China, in Singapore, in Canada, by independent laboratories and independent universities that work with us to back that up. So our results are very good, and those results feed into the calculus technology as well, which helps us to do the modelling that I was talking about before.
That's great. And that pretty much kind of concludes everything that we need to know about the technology side of Starwater. Thank you so much for explaining that. Let's just start off with the first questions. Why are you guys choosing IPO right now?
We're choosing IPO because of the shift in the financial markets towards ESG type ecological, sustainable and governance measures. So we're finding that the financial markets around the world being driven by Europe towards companies that have a sustainable offering is more attractive now than what it was 2 or 3 years or 4 years ago. We did try venture capital, but we didn't get much traction there. Our offering is quite up with where the policies and regulations are, but a lot of the venture capitalists and that aren't really up with where the policies and regulations are by governments that we align with. So we're finding that the IPO route and the alignment with the Sustainable Stock Exchanges program that the UN runs, for instance, that makes it very appealing for us to reach the right market that we want to reach with this sort of an offering. It is a very ecological, sustainable offering, and so we want to really target the market that's very receptive to that.
Awesome. And would you be able to recap back to your prospectus and all the details about the IPO and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the prospectus that we've developed has been a very robust process to do that, and because we're dealing with innovation and as I said, the latest regulatory and policy trends, we've had to be very scrutinised in the way that we've approached that. And with our legal team, we've got a number of sets of lawyers and sets of accountants, number of sets of accountants that have worked on the prospectus with us. And we have to be very direct about what we can do, and our claims have to be backed up by the science and all the information that we've got available as well. And that's been a very robust process and a very thorough process, and that's helped unravel, I guess, the technology and the importance of the technology and being able to back up your claims with a lot of science as well. So the prospectus is really really a plan on how we want to go about raising that money, but also using that money.
Definitely. And just to ask about where would the funding be going to once the investors do fund into the IPO?
Yeah, so what we're raising the capital for is to scale up. So that scale up means extra people on projects, both on the design and on the sales side and the fulfilment side. The executive team around that's needed to look at the larger scale projects and that as well, and the due diligence we need to do on those projects and getting them over the line. So it's really around manpower to be able to scale up and get fulfilment of these projects that we've got in our sales pipeline.
Awesome. And just at the end, what are the benefits that the investors might be able to get at the long run and, afterwards as well?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of market research on what we're doing and what the market's doing and where it's trending and where it's leading to. And I mentioned about the regulatory and policy arena, not only here in Australia, but in Europe, right through Southeast Asia and also North America. So we're very much tracking towards where their regulations are heading, and they're going to get tighter and tighter. So that's going to mean there's going to be a lot more demand for our sort of technology, for developers, for cities to meet the regulatory requirements that they're going to be having put on them in the future, never alone at the moment. So that's going to increase demand for our technology and mean that we're going to grow, I believe, at a rapid rate once we get scale up. And that, to the people that invest in our company in that, has got to have some benefits ongoing. One of the markets that's going to be very lucrative for us, we believe, is Europe, because of those financial market settings that are going towards ESG and so on. And so for the investors that jump on board with us in the early stages, there's going to be major benefits for them through we've got plans to dual list on the Frankfurt exchange as well. And so because of Europe and that, we feel like that if we have a presence on that exchange, that's going to be very lucrative to us and the people that come in with us in the early stages. Also, there's that's the financial benefit side, but there's also a social benefit for these people too, because everybody want to look after their children and their grandchildren and everything else. And so by investing in Star Water, it offers them an ability to invest in something that is meaningful and is going to protect humanity moving forward, and also make water available for the future, because the more there's population growth, the more demand there is on existing water resources. So if we can create water out of dirty stormwater and filter it to a high standard, which we do, then that's going to make more water available for humanity as well. So there's these sorts of other benefits for an investor that go beyond the normal financial benefits, if you like.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And that pretty much concludes about the IPO section. You're really good. Yeah. All right. So I'll start off with the first question. What are some of the past major projects that achieved great results from Star Water?
Yeah, so the major projects are the star system ones we've put in at Manly Beach, for instance, at Concord. I mentioned about the Olympic site. Both those ones generate water for reuse. We've got one in Shanghai Botanic Gardens over in Shanghai, and that one's got a recycling water system involved in it as well, where we're getting good results from that. Some of the systems we've put in are generating 40 million litres of water over a period of time, which is is quite phenomenal when you think about it, whereas all that water is just going down the drain at the moment. If we can capture and harness that, well then we can make that water available. But it's not only about making the water available, our idea is to monetize that water over time. So, and that will help pay for some of the capital costs for some of the technology going in. So that will reduce the cost to the customer, because we've got this ongoing supply of water, and it's a renewable resource as well. Every time it rains, we'll have that water available. So, so those projects are being key. We've recently done one where we've done 100% recycled content filter in Newcastle, north of Sydney. We've put in a system there which is 100% recycled content, and the results we're getting from that are quite phenomenal in removal of pollutants and the plant growth. This is a planted system where we put our filter in, and then they put plants in around the filter and in the filter, and the plant growth we're getting from it is phenomenal. And why that's important is because those plants are actually taking up some pollutants as well as the filter, but also they're capturing carbon from the atmosphere. So that's reducing the carbon emissions, and that which is another side of climate change that we can address by having more of these systems in. So the other work that we've done, which is very important, is over in the US as well, where we've looked at some very challenging pollutants that normally are very hard to remove from water, but we're working with the Desert Research Institute in Nevada over in the US there, and we're getting some very good results of removing some very important pollutants of concern, contaminants of concern, and we're getting very high removal rates, up to 90-95% of that. And if we can do that with our filters, which is a natural system, a natural base system, that's a lower cost than, say, a factory having to put in to remove these pollutants, then that's a lower cost to the customer over the long term, and that's a good benefit for them as well. So these are some of the key projects. We've won many awards for innovation for our projects that we've put in around the world as well. A number of them in Singapore. We've worked with the PUB in Singapore, Public Utilities Board. Again, we got very good results for the systems we put in there. In Shenzhen in China, we put in our filters along gutters in the old city area of Shenzhen, and we're getting very good results with that as well there.
Awesome. And I'm not sure if you covered this part, but some of the current projects that you guys may be undergoing right now, and then major improvements that you guys have towards your technology and your systems, comparing to your old projects that already has great results as well.
Yeah, so the pipeline looks very strong for what we've lined up, and these projects, it's infrastructure. It's not an instant sale. It's taken a number of years to get these projects into an agreement status, and then looking at, once we get into that project, the little projects within the project. So these projects are big developments in Western Sydney, west of Brisbane, one in Melbourne that's a 27-kilometre pipeline infill. So these projects are ones that we're either specified in, we've got letters of agreement, letters of intent with the client to work with over a period of time to put our technologies into their developments. These developments are a decade to 2 decades long. So this is the long-term projects that are now just starting to happen, but they'll go on for 10, 20 years. So the repeat business there is very strong for these major projects. So we've deliberately targeted the development and construction sector and the cities which are involved in a lot of the development as well. Of course, in Western Sydney, there's an airport going there and 5 cities, and we're very much in the midst of that for our technology as well, and we're getting it specified by the cities out there to get them to recommend it to their contractors that are doing the work for them. So often it comes through specifications and architects' designs and that, where our technology gets specified into.
Awesome. And does Starwater currently have any foresight towards, or any ambition towards having your tech and system get included in other areas that you guys are trying to achieve on? and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the big system, the STAR system, is the one that's been a challenge before, because cities and that weren't able to afford it, because they just didn't have the budgets to be able to put any sort of system into to really clean the water up and make the water available for reuse. However, because of the monetisation of the water, the regulatory and policy areas and government grants and so on, there's a lot more better climate to do that. But also, by targeting the developers and the construction companies and putting the offer in with them, that takes the pressure off the cities needing to afford it. It's built into the cost of the development. They've all got to put gutters and drains and all that in, and they also have a lot of requirement to dedicate a big area to this, normally to treat stormwater. However, with our systems going along the gutters and so on, they don't need to allocate that land now to for stormwater control, because we're controlling it all the way along the gutters. So they've got more land available to do more with, whether it's more buildings or more recreational areas or whatever. So we actually save the developers a lot of money in the long term by giving them extra space to work with, because our systems are going in where you'd normally put a gutter.
Awesome. And I guess just to conclude at the end, what are some of the upcoming views for the future of climate change, and anything for the future generation for their benefits and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, the future generation, we're seeing, we get a lot of interns that come in and work in our offices and that, and they're very receptive to the proposition, and they're our next generation of engineers, architects, designers and construction managers and all that. So we see the future very, very good for our type of offering, and not only that, because of this regulatory and policy shift, the financial market shift, business as usual is not an option now. Everyone is looking for that competitive advantage, that sustainable advantage. They get a higher price for developments that are a lot more sustainable, 5-star ratings, and water-sensitive urban design, such as our sort of technology going in. So they can offer their clients and customers something unique and something extra, and they can get extra rewards for that by up to 10% increase on the cost of some of these developments, or the price on some of these developments.
Mm-hmm. And I guess at the end, do you want to conclude with like a motivational message towards for the future of like our society, or just for for the foresight of everything?
Yeah, so a lot of the focus on ESG and sustainable development and climate change has been on energy and that up till now. So water's been the forgotten cousin, if you like, and that's one area that's really going to bite us if we don't do something about it, because water's essential to living. Energy, sure, we've got options there on wind, solar, and everything else, but when it comes to water, water's essential to life. So an investment in Star Water is an investment in the future of water.
Thank you so much. I guess that pretty much concludes everything that we need to have. And I think probably, you could just cut it from there as well. And probably